Well, a busy week ahead for the staff at the IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission, all drinking extra coffee over the next few days. It's been a week left to ensure the local government elections are free and fair. It's a Chief Electoral Officer. There he is, Mamabolo, joining us this morning. Mr. Mamabolo, good day to you. 7 days and counting. Are you nervous? Are you ready?
Well, a big week ahead for the institution, the IEC. A big week indeed for our staff as well as political parties. It's a moment of excitement. We're celebrating ourselves as a people. We're celebrating our electoral democracy. We just need to tie a few loose ends ahead of Saturday and Sunday for the special votes.
Well, let's get a couple of house rules and house regulations out the way, Mr. Mamabolo, while I have you. When can and when should political parties stop electioneering? So when can they stop speaking to the public ahead of Monday, one? And then two, what happens with, for example, the posters? How long can those stay up for once the elections are completed?
Well, in terms of campaigning, parties have until Sunday evening, midnight, to stop the campaigning. There is no organized campaigning for election. In other words, public meetings and rallies and so on the day of the election, but they can go as far as Sunday evening. In relation to posters, those are governed in terms of the various bylaws of the municipalities, and they provide for different prescriptions in terms of when they should be removed. But in general, they have to be removed after 7 days following the election.
Can we talk a little bit as well about the election day itself? We're not going to talk social distancing for the moment, Mr. Mamabolo. On the day itself, because I know we've had these issues in the past, what are political parties allowed to do at voting stations? Are they allowed to put up gazebos? Are they allowed to be there in political party clothing? What are the rules on election day governing political parties?
Indeed, parties are allowed temporary operational facilities, be they tables and tents outside of the boundary. It has to be outside of the boundary. That's really an important thing, outside of the boundary of the voting station. Everybody may wear their political T-shirt on the day, except for party agents, because party agents function within the voting station, but voters and other party supporters can wear their party regalia. There is no bar to that in terms of our electoral prescripts.
Let's talk a little bit about those agents inside the various voting stations. Mr. Mamabolo, just remind viewers what their role actually is. My recollection of the last local government elections is they are there to ensure that all the ballot papers go into the boxes, that no one is moving boxes without getting any authorization, the storage of boxes that are full outside of the venue that have to be collected later. Is my understanding of that correct? Maybe just unpack that a bit for me.
No, thanks, Gareth. I think indeed you are right. The primary responsibility of party agents is to ensure that the election officials manage the voting process in line with the law and the regulations, and to that extent, they have to observe the opening of the voting station, in particular, to ensure that the box to be used at the voting station is empty when voting commences, and that persons who are issued ballots at that voting station are people who are entitled those ballots. In other words, these are people who have registered at that voting station. And at the end of the process is the responsibility of party agents to observe the counting process and to countersign the result slip, confirming that the count attributed to their party is indeed the result of the results of their party at that specific a voting station. So when you look at it overall, it's a layer of transparency that party agents bring and a layer of oversight that they bring. And we need them, but we need them well-trained so that they can perform those functions and assure South Africans that the process has worked in terms of values of transparency as well as in accordance with the law.
How do you feel about ESCOM for Monday, Mr. Mamabolo, and them keeping the lights on? Are we going to miraculously not have power cuts on Monday? Are you speaking to ESCOM? What are they promising you? What are you asking them to do?
Well, we've been speaking to ESCOM for a while, and we've signed a memorandum of understanding between us, between the two institutions. We've met even at the highest level between the two institutions recently, and all efforts will be made, or rather all efforts are being made to ensure that we do not experience load shedding next week until the results are declared and so on. So touch wood, we hope that our colleagues at ESCOM will be able to assist the country by ensuring that we have an election with lights on.
I do understand that, and obviously from the power cuts perspective, hopefully ESCOM can keep the lights on. But as we've been hearing for years now, Mr. Mamabolo, that it's all to do with aging infrastructure. You might end up in a situation that because of aging infrastructure, the lights do go out at various voting centres. What happens at a voting centre? Say it's me and you, Mr. Mamabolo, we're standing in the line to cast our vote. The lights go out at the voting centre. What happens? What's the protocol?
Well, the idea is that we'll provide emergency lighting, portable lighting, to get the process to proceed, so that people are not hampered with the voting process. However, it will still create some discomforts, one must say, because those emergency lights and generators and so on can't have the same capacity as a normal reticulation from ESCOM. So we really are working together with those partners in ESCOM to ensure that even with that weakness of aging infrastructure that requires maintenance and so on, we are able to survive at least the election day without a major load shedding.
I'm going to come back to social distancing and the COVID protocols in a moment, Mr. Mamabolo. Just before I start saying goodbye to you, I'd like to get your thoughts on how these elections are going to look. It must be very unusual to try and plan that, though. Let me just get your thoughts on this very quickly. It seems the IEC getting a bit of flack last week, Mr. Mamabolo. I think you know where I'm going with this, where a tweet went out saying, just remember, if you don't vote, you lose your right to complain. You still stand by that?
No, look, the message could have been crafted differently. The sentiment really was, get out, go and vote, shape the affairs of your local community. And so I think that's the central import. But in the manner in which it was crafted, one accepts that we could have done better. The reality of the situation is that it is important for every one of the 26 million people who are registered to go out on the 1st, cast their ballot, and in that manner shape who the government of their local community is. And through that, shape the policy that is going to govern the delivery of services in your community. Remember, local government has very immediate and practical impact on our daily lives. It's about refuse removal, it's about street lighting, it's about cutting grass on the sides of the roads and so on. So it's quite immediate to our lives, and it impacts on us almost on a daily basis. Yeah. Therefore, it's important that everybody takes advantage of this opportunity created by our Constitution to participate. The tweet could have been crafted better, one accepts.
Let's talk about the voting day itself now, once again, if we could, Mr. Mamabolo, before I let you go. COVID-19 restrictions on the day, what does that look like? We're going to see thousands of people queuing up outside schools, outside churches, wherever they might be voting. I imagine once we're inside the venue, all the protocols will kick in. Is it going to be different for the very long queues outside of a venue? Are there going to be more electoral officers there to ensure I'm standing 1.5 meters away? How is that going to look for COVID-19 on the day? And I still have one more question, Mr. Mamabolo, before I let you go. So as briefly as you can, please, sir.
Yeah, no, thanks very much, Gareth. Indeed, we have provided for staff who will be dedicated to ensuring that there is social distancing. Will be assisted, of course, by officials of the South African Police Service, who will be stationed at the voting station to maintain social distancing in the queues. People will be sanitized upon entry at the station, and no one will get into a station without a face mask or a cloth covering both the nose and mouth.
And then this really is the last question, Mr. Mamabolo. Complaints on the day from members of the public, if they see something untoward from the IEC or a political party or COVID-19 restrictions on the day, someone needs to complain about something. How do they do that? Last question.
We have our call center 0800 11 8000 that can be used to channel complaints. The local offices of the Commission also can be phoned. The list is available. The list of offices and their contact details, it's available on the website.
Well, I appreciate...
And then normal... thanks, Gareth. Thanks very much.
I appreciate your time. Yeah, you gave us the number, Mr. Mamabolo, 0800 11 8000. There's so much more to talk about. I'm sure we'll talk about it again as we get closer and closer. Wishing you all the best, Chief Electoral Officer from the IEC. It's a week to go. Mr. Sai Mamabolo giving us an idea of what happens with social distancing, if you want to lay some complaints, if you see something, and also about the load shedding and the power cuts. We're all hoping we can try and keep the lights on.